Pucks with Haggs
is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Welcome to another episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast, powered by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. This is the 119th episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast. I'm your host, Joe Haggerty. You can find my work at joehaggerty.substack.com. Subscribe to a premium membership. Get all of my Bruins and NHL writing sent straight directly to your inbox. You can also find my work at Boston Sports Journal. I file 3 columns a week for them about the Boston Bruins. Plenty of great stuff at Boston Sports Journal, so check out bostonsportsjournal.com. I believe it's the 119th episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast. With me, longtime friend and colleague Mick Colageo. Mick, welcome to the show. Please tell everybody where they can find your work.
Thanks, Joe. You can find me at bostonhockeynow.com. I write a weekly column on the Bruins for them, and I'm in the current issue of the Hockey News with the Bruins article on their yearbook preseason collection of team surveys.
Awesome. Everybody check that out at the Hockey News. Finn actually got a subscription to the Hockey News as a gift for Christmas, so he will be reading your work, Mick. I'll point that out to him for sure when it comes in the mail. Let's thank our sponsors real quick as well. Prize Picks is a great website, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America, and the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's fun. And pretty simple. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. We also have Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets for MLB, concert, comedy, whatever. Take all the guesswork out of buying those tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. Sad news, Mick, to start this show. We're not going to dwell on it because there's really not much to be said beyond just an unthinkable tragedy and sadness about the whole situation. But news came out early this morning that Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew were both hit and killed, I guess, by a drunk driver while they were biking in New Jersey the weekend of their sister's wedding. Both taken in the prime of their lives. Johnny Gaudreau was a dad, a husband. Matthew Gaudreau, minor league hockey player. I can't even fathom the levels of tragedy for the Gaudreau family, given the whole situation and just the hockey world in general. Johnny Hockey was an exciting player, a very likable kid, somebody that was really fun to watch and somebody that had really made his mark in the NHL. So it's just really sad to hear of passing way too soon of both him and his brother.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who wasn't rooting for Johnny Hockey to catch fire in Columbus was basically not rooting for that so they could get him on their own team and have it happen there. And so this hurts. It's so unnecessary. It just is, I don't know if there were priors, but I was a few years ago, I was a juror in a driving under the influence case in New Bedford, Mass, and the guy had priors, and we weren't allowed to know that because it would have biased us, and because the case was presented so poorly by the state, we had to get the guy off, and so I was part of a system that keeps putting people like this on the road, and it really pissed me off.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you because that's that is completely avoidable and completely senseless when it's, the result of somebody driving under the influence. And that's, that just makes it all the more tragic when you hear, you find out just how senseless it all was. But it's, it just, I think right now you just think about Johnny Gaudreau's family, Matthew Gaudreau's family, everybody, their friends and family, everybody that knew them, and what was taken away from them in the prime of his life. Just really, really sad. So my thoughts go out to the Gaudreau family right now. Columbus Blue Jackets fans, friends of the Gaudreaus, the Boston College community, everybody that he knew there while he was a star player at Boston College. Johnny Gaudreau was a kid that touched a lot of people's lives, and I'm really sorry to hear about his passing and the way it went down. So my thoughts and prayers are out to everybody that was touched by Johnny Gaudreau. So let's move on from the sad news and get back to the Bruins, what we usually talk about, Mick. And I have a feeling we're going to be talking about today what we've talked about for most of the episodes this summer. And that will be Jeremy Swayman. That will be Jeremy Swayman. It continues to go on. Now we're seeing every week somebody is like chiming in. This week it was Jeremy Swayman. He was on a podcast. I think it was called the Mark Lewis is Cool podcast, which I'd never heard of before, but he was a guest on that.
Leave it to Mark Lewis. He is cool if you got this.
Okay. I don't know him. I don't know the podcast, but congrats for getting Swayman on and him getting some pub. He got a nice bump this week from getting the guest of the moment. And Swayman was asked his mindset about like negotiations right now and sort of where they're at. And this is what he said. If you were to ask me that same question a year ago, I would answer it truthfully. And I would say it's scary and it's a lot of resentment towards people that want you to succeed. And when you're not getting compensated for your endless efforts and what you do best, it's a nerve-wracking feeling because it's your family that you're fighting for. The answer I'm going to give you this year is that I've educated myself. I understand the business side of it all, and it's given me a completely new mindset of understanding the business and how to react to it. I understand the cap is going up and where it will be in years. I understand my comparables, and I can't ruin the goalie market for other players that are coming on down the line. I went to the school of business at the University of Maine, so I understand it and love it all. I'm doing classes at Stanford right now through the NHLPA for business. I understand that these experiences that I'm having now are going to help me post-career when I want to be a businessman and when I want to talk about serious stuff. All right. I find that interesting. I would have loved if there was a follow-up question asking him who exactly he thinks his comparables are.
I know, because that's been your steady Eddie argument here that he doesn't have the comparables to make these demands.
I saw somebody on Twitter that was saying, I saw there was somebody on Twitter that was saying, I think it was a hockey reporter was saying that, Saros was one of his comparables, so he should get $8.5 to $9 million a year. And I was like, I don't think you understand what comparables are. If you think Saros is a comparable and then he's going to get paid $8.5 to $9 million a year, Saros is getting like 7.7.
Well, he's also not, the way it works, not the same career stage.
Yeah, the way it works is, and no, they're not. The way it works is your comparables are what you get paid like. Your comparables are not, you get paid at $1.5 million more than what your comparable is. That's not how comparables work either. Like your comparables are, I have the same numbers or similar numbers to X, Y, and Z, so I should get paid like X, Y, and Z. Well, not I should get paid substantially more than X, Y, and Z. That's not how it works.
Well, do you think that Swayman in his theoretical soliloquy was making an argument that could be applied to this in the manner of when Saros signed his contract, this was the cap, this was the situation. We now know the cap is higher this year. It's going up higher in the future. And therefore, if I was going to make a comparable to UC Saros, Nashville Predators goalie, everyone, that we would have a comparable that is truly equal if I'm asking for this much more because that's my position in the market.
But Saros's contract is starting this year just like Swayman's would be. So it's the exact same contract.
So what did he sign it last?
The cap going up, I think, has no relevance because Saros just signed his contract and it's just started.
Like just now he signed it?
It's the same. What's that?
When did he sign it?
I think it was very recently. I don't think it was that long ago.
This offseason?
I think it might have been, or towards the end of the regular season. I don't know. It was in the last 6 to 12 months.
With the cap in the same future scope that it is right now.
We knew the cap was going up, Mick. This is not a new revelation. The cap is going up every year. Like that's not something that is like really news. Like it goes up every year now, and the projections have been that it's going to go up. I just don't see that. There's no way if your contract is starting this year and that contract is starting this year, and it was just recently signed in the last few months. you can't just say, "Oh, the cap is going up. I should be getting 1.5 million more." No, that's not how it
not
works.
if they're that close in timeline. No.
Yeah, it's not. That is not how it works.
But I don't think it's a compare. It's a weird comparable to me anyway.
No, it is a weird comparable. Like the only comparable like that you could potentially use is the Islanders goaltender, Sorokin. And even that one, and he's getting paid over $8 million a year, but he's a little older than Swayman, and he's played well over 50. He's averaged like 56 or 57 games a season over the last 3 years. He's been a Vezina Trophy finalist. Like he's, I think, at a higher level.
Yeah, he would have won it if Ullmark hadn't.
Right. So he's at a higher level than Swayman too, like based on his resume and what he's done. So I don't really view him as a comparable too.
Yeah.
Like if he's a comparable in any way, like Swayman's a lesser comparable. I think Swayman would be one rung down on the ladder from Sorokin if you were looking at
career achievement.
Yeah. I mean, he's comparable in the sense that I think he's only had 3 full seasons like Swayman has. But he has been a much bigger workhorse and put up much better numbers and, you know, had a much bigger workload and like been viewed as better by his peers or by the GMs in the NHL that vote on the Vezina than Swayman has. So I don't really view that as an apples to apples comparable either. I still think, and like, you know, Jeremy Swayman can disagree with me all day long and that's fine. But I still think he's in the 7 to 8 range and he's under all these other goalies that have done so much more to this point in their career than he has.
Well, then let's okay. So you've been pretty consistent for before these negotiations that Swayman is the Bruins' future. Swayman is the number one. He's the preferable goalie. He's the one that we can trust in the playoffs. He's the one we need to go forward with here in Boston. Yeah. Then you get to negotiations, and now you've been very consistent about where he fits in salary-wise. Now let's just say, okay, let's accept Part A, let's accept Part B, and let's go to Part C and say, what do you, Joe Haggerty, think that Swayman's appropriate strategy should be for a long-term contract, or should he hold out for a short-term contract as a bridge because he doesn't believe that he should settle for this? I mean, since you and he don't see eye to eye on this, and you're putting yourself in Don Sweeney's chair right now, would you consider a short-term deal with him, knowing that, what is it, only a year away from UFA?
Yeah. No, I don't think they should go short-term either because I don't think that's going to work out well for them. That's what makes this, Mick, a very difficult
That's what this is about.
That's what makes this problematic for both sides is that this is not an easy target. Like it would be much easier. It would have been much easier if Don Sweeney had really swept the leg during arbitration, had really gone for the throat, and had asked for a 2-year decision instead of a 1-year decision. And then he would be under the lower number through arbitration this coming year too, as he was the starter, and he would go out and perform. And then you'd feel a lot better about, like, if he has a great year, he plays 60 games, he's a Vezina Trophy finalist, then you'd be like, here's the money, like, take it. Like you've earned 8 point something. You're up in a much higher stratosphere as far as goalies go. And we feel good about giving this to you. I just feel like it's a bit of a risk giving him an 8-year, $64 million contract, sight unseen somewhat on a goalie that hasn't played more than 44 games, even though I believe he's going to be able to play 60, no problem. I believe he's going to be a number one guy. I've felt like the first time I saw him in a training camp that he was a franchise guy and that he was going to be a star goaltender. So, on one level, I think I'd be okay if the Bruins did that because, I believe in him and I think he's going to live up to it. But speaking from a GM's perspective and speaking from a team that's going to shell out that kind of dollars perspective, I'd have a hard time sending out that kind of contract when I hadn't seen it yet.
I feel like this is the new NHL, though. I feel like there's been group RFAs all over the league, including many without arbitration rights, who have gotten career contracts ahead of their time in this era. It's like
goalies, though.
What's that?
Not goalies. Goalies have not really been given those kind of contracts.
Why not? These people go around sloganing up the goalie is the most important position in hockey.
I know.
Yada yada.
you and I both know they're not viewed that way, though. They're not viewed with the level.
It's coaches and goalies. There's a million of them. It's a matter of getting the right one for your team.
Right. One thing I will say, the report from WEI this past week that he's looking for $10 million a year. I don't buy that. Like, I don't find it unbelievable. I kind of feel like I feel like if the Bruins are starting at 6, why shouldn't he start at 10 if he wants to wind up at 8? Because he has no business asking to be paid like Andrei Vasilevsky. I
don't think they have any business. I think these days there is no business.
He has that is so outlandish that he would think, or that his camp would think, he should be paid like Andrei Vasilevsky. Like, no. That is not even in the realm of like being realistic in any way, shape, or form.
Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. They've got over 5 million active members. Look, it is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Now, unlike all the other apps, Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. That's it. Now, you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. And 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. Now, here's an example of a player projection lineup. You could be going Tyreek Hill for more than 90 receiving yards, or Dak Prescott for more than 263 passing yards. On the other end, Josh Allen for less than 240 passing yards, and CeeDee Lamb for more than 96 receiving yards. You like those picks? So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game.
And the other thing I will say about Swayman's comment is that, when he starts talking about fighting to feed his family, when it's the difference between making $7 million a year and making 8-point-something million a year. Like, that is not going to ring true with.
He means his great grandchildren.
I know. The bottom line is Jeremy Swayman has earned the big money he's going to get. Right, like his hard work, his toil, his desire to be elite, like his willingness to stay around Boston and Warrior in the summertime and work out and continue to get better and better, and like his mental strength to sort of like power through being in a tandem with a guy that won a Vezina trophy and still end up winning the job this past year. Like, there's a lot going on there that's great. And there's a lot of things he deserves credit for that he's done to build himself up to this point. So like, he deserves to get paid, and he's going to get paid. And that's why I think he has some peace of mind too, is because he knows he's going to get paid regardless. Like, he knows the big money is coming regardless of how this shakes out. It's just a matter of like if it's like clean or if it's kind of like ugly, an ugly process to get there, and like how the road that they take to get there. Like that's really what it comes down to. But like, he's going to get paid either way. But I would caution him, like, if you start talking about like the very strong union speak about like feeding your family and like, all that stuff, like, you're going to start turning off a lot of hockey fans that like struggle day to day to put food on the table.
Yeah, people who are getting the screw turned on them by the NHL, making them buy additional games after they've already loyally put up their cable or streaming money for NESN 360 or however it is they get the games. And then after all that, no, we're not putting this Tuesday night game against the Buffalo Sabres on TV for you, what you already paid us for. No, we're going to put that one on ESPN Plus and Hulu, and you have to give us an extra $11.50 or whatever it is. And, I mean, and then we're going to make a, big whoop about we're on all these platforms. And so people in all corners of the earth will see the NHL that never had it before. No, it's just we're going to just get another dime out of your pocket, another dollar out of your pocket. We're just reaching even deeper when we know you already are just trying to somehow hack the inflation of this world that we're all in. And it's just it's greed. It's capitalism run amok, and it's really holding the fans in contempt because we got you where we want you. And I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here.
No, it's true though. That's the backdrop of it.
But it annoys the crap out of me.
Yeah. No,
I think the fans have a choice. The fans make all this possible. They're the benefactors. If all of a sudden people said, I'm done with the NHL, I'm just going to go watch college hockey, I'm going to go watch and they completely stop, the faucet shuts off and the revenue stops. And they, so somewhere along the way, they have to worry about the needle that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah, the straw that breaks the camel's back. I agree. I think they do
the
too.
Needle in the haystack has straw. I think I made a connection there somewhere.
I knew. I was picking up what you were putting down, Mick. I was there.
Thank you.
I think you're right. I think they do have to worry to a degree, but is it realistic to think that people are going to drop the NHL and just start watching college hockey because they're turned off about having a?
Well, we've already proven
having to get ESPN Plus to watch a Bruins game 2 or 3 or 4 times a year. I don't think so.
We've already proven since TV 38 started carrying the Bruins in the late 60s, where, the 68-69 season, when games started, they were something, we're going to keep doing this. These fans are crazy for this stuff. Since then, and ever since Nesson was a paid channel in 84, 85, the simultaneous with the beginning of Hockey East, this has been the game, and the game's evolved, the business evolves, the techniques, and everything it keeps on changing. However, one thing that never changes is they can count on the people who want the product to put up whatever it takes to get it, and they keep on doing this. And they say, yeah, there's going to be a few people who drop off, but we will win the war. So, yeah. But let's call it out. Let's call it what it is. They're holding the fans in contempt and saying, no, you won't. No, you won't.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure there was grumbling when games went to Nesson. I was young when that happened, so I don't really remember.
Sure. I certainly wasn't had to pay for Nesson, yeah.
But I'm sure when the Red Sox and the Bruins went to Nesson from Channel 38, where they had been on for a long time.
It was only home games, too, when it started. Yeah. 38 still had the Bruins road games.
Yep. So I'm sure they were pissed when that started. And, you're taking it to the fans, you're screwing the fans, you're stealing from their pocketbooks, whatever fans said back then. I'm as the world turns and as more and more things are looking, to get a little revenue stream going, I think there's just going to be more of that, not less.
And the Celtics, I think, simultaneously went to rival sports channel.
Yep.
It's kind of like it was like the cable version of 38 and 56.
They used to be on Channel 56 with Gil Santos and Bob Cruz. There you go. I remember that very well. I used to watch those games all the time.
Yep.
But bottom line, getting back to what we were talking about, if I were advising Jeremy Swayman, I would try to steer him away from the putting food on your table when you're talking about that kind of money. He has earned that money. There is no question about it. He should feel good about it. He should feel good that he's going to get paid at that level. He should have peace of mind knowing that money is coming, that security for him and his family and for generations to come is coming. That's a great thing, and he should feel good about it. But to put it in terms of putting food on the table, that's not going to ring true with a lot of Bruins fans that are scraping by.
It's Jimmy Connors aging Jimmy Connors at the U.S. Open back in the early '90s, yelling at the chair. I think it was Frank Hammond. You're stealing dinner from my daughter. He's arguing a line call. It's come on, cut the crap.
Yeah, but that is I could see that being a really competitive thing too, though. Saying that, he probably has to get himself in that mindset, somebody's taking something from him.
Oh, absolutely. He had to play on. He had to have a fight in order to. There had to be a fight. There had to somehow make it happen.
And I'm sure to a degree that's what Jeremy Swayman is believing, in these negotiations, that they're kind of a fight too.
He had to be like Roberto Duran. He had to be able to hate the player. He had to hate the opponent to beat him.
Yeah, and I'm sure that has part to do with the mindset. But if I just would be mindful of that, because I got people when I posted that quote, there were a bunch of people on Twitter that responded back like that. I'm a Swayman fan, but I didn't like that, and I could sort of understand why. If you're struggling, you don't want to hear that from professional athletes.
Yeah, it's a minor misstep, but it's a misstep.
No, and it's understandable. As much as he wants to say it's a business thing for him now, there's emotion there. You can hear it in his voice when he's talking about this stuff. That there's an emotional component to it for him, and that he feels like he's in the right, and that the Bruins are trying to like not give him what's due. And that's where like I think it's also a sticky negotiation, because you want the Bruins to feel like it was a fair negotiation when it's over, and they didn't like blow up like the goalie market for years to come by giving too much to somebody that hadn't quite gotten there yet. But you also want Jeremy Swayman to feel like he was treated fairly. He got his just money, and that he was compensated fairly, and that he's not going to be left with hard feelings. Because like what you don't want and what you can't have is like him, I think, feeling like he felt last year after the arbitration process, where like several times over the course of the season, he was negative about it and sort of voiced his opinions about it, and, really felt it was an unpleasant process, and was left kind of with some hard, bitter feelings as a result of it. I really don't think you want that from him when this contract is finally done one way or the other. And I will say right now, I don't believe this is going to end with him getting traded somewhere.
Being pissed at management helped Tim Thomas in 2010-11. He takes all the Bruins stuff off his mask, goes out, wins the Vezina and the Conn Smythe.
Yeah. The hip surgery he had before that season helped too. That was a big part of that too.
That's huge. Yeah. That was a weird one. We do his exit interview after that season ends, and then we get the email from the Bruins like the next day that he had hip surgery. It's like, what? Nobody asked him about it.
Yep. But Tim Thomas is such a unique character. Swayman
he's in Sports World, by the way.
Is he?
I think coming up. I'll tell you when. You go ahead and talk, and I'll look it up.
But Thomas is a unique character. Swayman is Tim Thomas is your typical goalie, like very goalie type personality, behavior, like all that stuff, and the odds he had to overcome in order to get there. Like, he's a very unique case where I think he does, because he throughout his career performed very well in me versus the world situations. Like, in order for him to get in the NHL, he had to kind of have that defiant,
you're absolutely right,
attitude. You know what I mean?
He fight for everything.
And it became a double-edged sword as far as him being a good teammate, because he still had that attitude when he'd made it, and I think it rubbed some people the wrong way, because it was sort of like very self-centered, me against the world attitude, when it was less about the team and more about him from his perspective. Like, Swayman's not like that. Swayman's a different kind of guy, I feel like, personality-wise, and a little more normal, I think, than your run-of-the-mill goalies as far as his personality goes and who he is. So I don't know. Maybe it will be, because, look, he had a great year last year. He was an all-star for the first time, and it was after the arbitration process. So maybe he will be able to perform under those
I don't see it holding him back at all, because I think he's so committed to his process. And I think that foundation was set in place, just like you said about Timmy, about Saturday, October 5th, by the way, he'll be at Sports World signing autographs for a price. And I think Swayman likewise will also be kind of like Steady Eddie going forward, doing what he does. And one of the things Razor brought up when we spoke to him at FanFest in Plymouth last Sunday was that one of the things Swayman's going to go through as a starter and the number one goalie on a team is that you're going to go through bad weeks. And he said he's going to have to learn this part where you being in a groove and being great and having a streak, that's not really what tells you that you're a top goalie in the league. It's your ability to get over the bad week that you're going to get. You play that much, you're going to have a bad week. That's when you pick yourself up and pick up your team after that. That's when you're gonna really prove your mettle. And he's not saying he doesn't have the right stuff. He totally believes in him and thinks that he's that guy. But he says, hey, this is the thing that's going to happen this year under the new circumstances.
Yeah, and that's to the point of, like, when you haven't played, when you haven't played 60 plus games, and when you haven't had the number one goalie responsibility on your shoulders. Until you've had it, you can't prove that you can do it. Mm-hmm. And it's because of things like that you're going to have to pull yourself out of those situations. Because guess what? If you have a tough week as a goalie, the team is going to have a tough week. Like, those go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
If Jeremy Swayman is struggling, the Bruins are going to be struggling too.
That's true.
And he's going to feel that pressure of all of that on his shoulders. And it's not going to be able to, like, all right, Swayman had a couple off games. We can go to Olmark here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you're going to see that kind of relief,
right.
With Korpisalo. It's going to be
scoring slump. It may not affect the trajectory of the club.
We're all looking at you, Jeremy Swayman. You're the guy. Like, you need to pull us out of this, and like, that's a different kind of pressure.
Yeah, it sure is, and he wants it. He's been savoring it, and now he's gonna get it. So,
yep, definitely.
Looking for concert tickets for the rest of this summer or early fall? Last year, I used Game Time to get tickets to Def Leppard, Poison, Motley Crue, and Joan Jett at Fenway Park. And you can go out and get Fenway Park concert tickets this summer and this fall with Game Time. Pearl Jam's coming in September. I believe Post Malone is also coming to Fenway Park in September. So why not use Game Time to get your tickets for those concerts, in addition to the football action that you're going to have that's just starting up as well, that you can use Game Time to get Patriots tickets or any tickets to either NFL or college football all around. So it's fantastic using Game Time right now, taking the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. You can have all-in pricing, which is the feature shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee, which is my favorite, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, again, but create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
But to your point, we talked about this a little bit before. You think he would be within his rights to ask for $10 million, or you think that's realistic?
No,
that
I think it's literally within his rights, and we can't disagree on that. But what I am saying.
Why do you think?
Well, because it is by the CBA can do what the hell he wants.
Well, yeah.
So that's what I'm talking. But what I'm saying now is the difference between now and say 10 years ago is the gloves are off. Everybody's doing everything differently now. The same way guys get career contracts before they even have arbitration rights in their RFAs, restricted free agents. I just feel like with the whole technique of negotiating and the way management is done with the cap, all of these things have all been tweaked forward another decade. The salary cap era is almost 20 years old. So it's still the same rules to the cap from pretty much as they were when they brought it in 05-06 season. And it's more than twice as much as it was. I think the floor is higher now than what the cap was then, 39.5. But there is definitely a change of how people do what they do. And nowadays, even look at offer sheets. Nobody's bad mouthing offer sheets anymore. That used to be anathema. Now it's like, oh yeah, this is a tool of the CBA, and people should use it. It's unbelievable that things have come around the way they have. That the teams seem to have made this mysterious evolution of their negotiating techniques of saying, okay, how are we going to keep this player? Well, it used to be you hold them down as hard as you can, as far as you can, until you have to give it to them, then you give it to them. Now it's identify the young player, say he's going to be a pillar on our team, and then pay him like that player. And that's the most general difference I can see. And because of that, and because of the convoluted way that comparables can be made, it's such an inexact science. To me, I don't see why he wouldn't start here if he wanted to wind up there, or thought he should wind up there.
Yeah, I just think, if
not saying to believe it, I'm just saying I wouldn't count it out. I wouldn't discount it.
Yeah, I don't think he's asking for that, because I that is like, if you're starting there, like if I were the Bruins, I'd be like, I don't even respond to that.
Well, that's what's happened. I mean, so from a factual standpoint, your theory has come true. If that's what happened.
Yeah, I got to think there's some back and forth between the two, but Like, that's not even good faith negotiations. Like, this is my problem. If you're going to both decline arbitration, that is like a tacit admission of like, we're going to be in good faith negotiations. We're going to do this the right way. We're going to, like, you know, if you do that and then you ask for $10 million, like, that is not even close to good faith.
But now you're jumping from that to what your opinion of good faith negotiations is.
Yeah,
and this is what the opinion, I think, between yours and his that are different.
Yeah, you can't ask, like, if you're asking for the same money that every single one of those goalies got after they won a Vezina trophy, and you're asking for that now, like, no way. Like, that is totally unrealistic, totally pie in the sky, like, completely, like, we're going to ask for everything. And like, and if I guess if that's your negotiating strategy is to ask for everything you could possibly want, that you're not even close to being in the neighborhood of asking for.
You shall pay me a 50% stake of ownership.
Yeah, it's starting from there. It's like, okay,
I shall take the hotel to the right of the TD Garden.
I just would hope that they and expect that. I don't think that that's what we're asking for. I think that's what they probably want to land is somewhere in the 8s, I would think.
Yeah.
And maybe Sorokin is the guy they look at as the comparable. I just don't see it that way. Like, I think he hasn't done enough to be comparable to Sorokin, even though, like, I think the save percentages are probably similar. But, like, Sorokin has had a season where he played over 60 games. He's averaged 57 games a year for the last 3 years. Like, Swayman's not even close to that. You know, and through no fault of his own because he was splitting time with Linus Ullmark. But I don't know. I just feel like, and I know that in the back end they're buying out free agent years, so that's going to inflate the number a little bit. So push comes to shove, you probably give them the 8 because you're buying out so many free agent years, and you know there's a little inflation there. Whatever. Like I think the Bruins could justify that.
I thought from day one this was going to wind up around 8 times 8.
Yeah, and if it gets there and that's the final number, I like, and they avoid a ton of headaches and it gets them in training camp and it gets the world spinning the right way for the Bruins, I suppose that's like, you know, that's a fair resolution. That's something they can feel good about. You know, because you're basically betting your future on him and you're putting your money on him that he's going to be a great goalie for, you know, the next 8 years. But I still even think that if, like, put it this way, if I were the GM and you look at it, I'm sure you look at it as a competition. If you're the front office, you want to win it to some degree. You want the player to be happy, but you also want to win it, or, you know, you want to do what's right for the league, for your team, for all that
That's
stuff.
the hardest part about NHL management, that I don't know how these guys sleep at night, because it just blows me away that they are trying to serve these two masters here in this double situation. You're in a series of double binds all the time, and these are the biggest ones. Yep,
it's true. And that's, as we've said many times, Mick, that's what makes it not such an easy negotiation. That's why we're at the impasse that we're at for right now.
It's supposed to be a happy partnership now that the NHL has proven to the players' union that, hey, with a salary cap and your 24% salary rollback, let's just partner together, grow the game, do this, and let's see what happens. And it's bigger and wilder than I would have ever imagined. And then our interview with Nevin Marquardt, former Bruin, former first-round draft pick from '83, who played for them throughout that decade and into the early '90s. Spunky little winger, could score some goals, but plagued by shoulder injuries. And Nevin was always known to be a computer guy before the world was a computer guy. And one of the things he said to us last year during our many opportunities to interview alumni in keeping with the centennial season was that the NHL revenue is about to go nuts. Things that would be kind of like things that could like put you on the bench, virtually on the bench, so that you could watch the game from there, watch it like a GoPro from any player's perspective. There's like things he says that they're unbelievable that are going to happen, and this is all going to go into the gross, and that this is going to drive up the cap like crazy. And so the amount of money that's going to come into this equation, he says, we don't even have any idea of it yet, but it's right around the corner.
Yeah, I mean that's true to some degree, but the NHL doesn't do gangbuster ratings on ESPN. So like you also wonder like what the TV contract is going to look like, the next one that they sign. I don't know. Like I think it's still a valuable property, but it's never really been the ratings bonanza that like for national networks when they do those TV deals. I don't know that they ever get the networks ever get the exact like bang for the buck they're expecting when they pay for these TV contracts, the big national ones. So like I don't know, and that's a huge factor in revenue and how much money they're making, and I don't know how much that's going to improve or grow. So there's like different areas where they're going to like revenue streams are going to happen, and different places they're going to make money, and there's other places where I'm not sure it's going to be the same. You would expect it's going to continue to go up, but
yeah, I mean, it's way above my pay grade to think about these things, but I was pretty amazed by how surefire he acted that this is coming.
Yeah,
he's still involved. Totally. He's involved in this kind of stuff today. This sort of cutting edge technical stuff. He really kind of went crazy with this stuff in his life. And
there's also a question though of how many people are going to like pay money for that. You know what I mean? Like,
I know, because it'll all get passed on to the consumer. That is, we've figured that out, haven't we?
Yes. But yeah, and either way, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out long term as far as the health and well-being of the league, which I would assume is just going to go up and up, as Swayman referenced in his comments. Let's also thank our sponsors who have been, going up and up for us at every turn on the Pucks with Haggs podcast. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America and the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Let's also thank Game Time. You take the guesswork out of buying tickets, MLB tickets, concert tickets, comedy tickets, Bruins tickets, Celtics tickets when they start going, Patriots tickets, they're coming down the pipe now too. Take all the guesswork out of buying any of those tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but download the app, create an account at Game Time, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Mick, thank you very much for joining us this week, my friend.
My pleasure, Joe.
You got it. And I'm sure we'll be talking about Jeremy Swayman again the next time we're on a podcast together. It'll be loads of fun, I'm sure. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We'll see you at the rink.